Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in Kernersville. We'll tell you more about them later on. And later on is when the roundtable shows up. We'll get into all sorts of controversies with them, but I hope you'll stay with us through the entire half hour. We have a lot of great guests, important information coming your way, including understanding more about osteoporosis. But where we want to start is with a gentleman who doesn't like to brag on himself, but I'll brag on him. He helps not only train people for jobs, he and his staff and team at GTCC, but kind of create jobs too that need that training. We'll get to why that happens, but he's my hero. With me right now, Dr. Anthony Clark, president of GTCC. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Jim. Glad to be here.
Tony, GTCC is known for training skilled workers for local companies here in the Triad. So in what ways do you support the businesses and industries that will take those jobs?
Sure. Well, when you think about training the workforce for the Triad and supporting business and industry, we really have, well, there's numerous things we do, but I'll say on one side we have our curriculum programs, so our degree programs. We have close to 80 different programs, so all those technical programs. Of course, aviation, advanced manufacturing is on, out in the news a lot, but we have culinary, early childhood, paralegal, I'll leave one out and someone will get mad, but entertainment, technology, all different types of degrees, and that we partner with employers on. And all those programs have advisory committees, and they meet at least twice a year with their employers groups to find out what is needed by the employers.
What they're really going to need.
Right, exactly. And of course, there's communication between those meetings, but we require at least that we have our faculty and staff stay close to our employers.
And you do such a great job with that with the existing industry, but that leads me to the next question. What's the flip side of existing industry? Well, what is your role at GTCC in trying to work with new industries that may come here?
Well, sure. So when new industries come, frequently we're involved right at the beginning. And when helping to promote the area, we're involved with the chamber to help. We'll be involved in presentations. Actually, before Toyota came, I was involved in a presentation with a manufacturer from Japan that makes batteries. I didn't know who it was, but we gave the presentation about how we help startup companies here in the Triad. And lo and behold, and later on I learned it was Toyota.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Toyota in a second, but it just makes such a big difference, when you're trying to recruit an industry, because still, at least it used to be the last statistic I saw, that industries mainly look to see what kind of education there is out there, right?
Yes. I mean, workforce development and workforce training is a key part. I mean, we're a key part of attracting companies here. Now, once again, we're not the front. We're a supportive element,
right.
But it's key. And when you think of Boom Supersonic, Toyota, but also, our existing companies wanting to grow here. You've heard a lot of announcements about companies wanting to grow here and build on their operations. It's the technical, the community college system with our technical and community colleges throughout the Triad that really are attracting those.
Very quickly, since we mentioned Toyota, the Toyota plant that's going to make batteries for electric vehicles and whatever, you're teaming up with Randolph Community College. What's that about?
Well, once again, so the site is in Randolph County. Of course, a lot of support has come from the city of Greensboro and Guilford County. So there's been a partnership, and so Randolph Community College and GTCC are working on continuing that partnership. We're still in conversations about what that might look like. There's rules at the State Board of Community Colleges we need to look at and things like that. We're looking at some sort of I'll say revenue and cost sharing arrangement that we would have between us. And the other thing we're really looking at is that shared curriculum. So whether an individual comes to GTCC or RCC, they're getting the same training that Toyota needs. So we're working on developing that curriculum
Works for the common good of the area to build the economy in the region. That's right. Oh, you also mentioned a couple minutes ago, before I forget, Boom Supersonic that's coming. Everybody knows you have this great aviation department at GTCC, so that's going to fit in pretty well, right?
Exactly. So right now we educate just over 400 students in our aviation programs. So we have plans, actually I'll be presenting to the county commissioners tomorrow, a plan to build a 100,000 square foot facility at our Cameron campus will allow us to increase our instructional capacity by 40%. So we'll be able to educate over 600 students. So once again, not only support Boom Supersonic, but also, Honda Aircraft has growth plans. HAECO has really never slowed down.
That's right.
In their maintenance during the pandemic and all that. So there's a need for aviation technicians, and we want to be that supplier for those.
See, I talking to the folks at home. You see what I'm saying earlier? This gentleman and his team, they work in the beginning to try to bring industry here. They can do the job training once the jobs are here. year. You're sort of helping on the front end and the back end, and I just appreciate all you do. And before I forget, I want to make sure we put this up, because speaking of all the courses that are offered, you go to gtcc.edu and look about and check and see all about the curriculum and workforce development. Tony, I appreciate all you do.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share what we're doing with the community.
All right, come back and see us.
All right, we certainly will.
We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, and from time to time you hear me mention Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. And this time we're lucky enough to have one of the folks that works directly for Kate B. Reynolds, and a good friend of mine who's been on the show many times before. With me now is Chanel McClurkin-Thompson, Senior Program Officer for Local Impact around the Forsyth County area, Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. Good to see you again.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good. Now remind everybody, just very quickly before we get started, what the mission of Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust is.
Absolutely. So we work to improve the quality of life for residents in Forsyth County and also health around the state of North Carolina.
Chanel, you sent me an email the other day and said, let's talk about the fact that KBR has work has involved to focus on racial equity and systems change. Racial equity and systems change. What did you mean?
So I think the first thing when we talk about racial equity is at the trust, we believe that in order for us to see true change, we have to understand and recognize who's not benefiting from the work that we've been doing all these years. So when we talk about improving the quality of life and health of residents of Forsyth County, we have to understand whose life is not being improved, who are the people that are being left out of that. And so we start to ask ourselves, what is the data telling us? And what we know is that Black and brown people in Forsyth County and across the state are not faring as well as all other demographics. And how do we do that work? And so we've been able to look at data and really come to understand that in order for us to move the work, we've got to move beyond programs and start looking at what are the policies, what are the procedures, and what are the systems and institutions that continue to hold different populations.
It gets into the whole systems change too. You don't just stay in one place, and stand still. You've got to be looking at what the trends are and who's not being served. I think that's just great. Now, you focused in the past and continue to focus on infant mortality, which is very crucial, infant mortality rates. But here's a question. You're now looking at something that you told me about called equitable birth outcomes. Now, what do you mean by that?
So what we really want to see now is how do we ensure, remember we go back to that statement about all, how do we ensure that the birth outcomes for all people are equitable? So we want to decrease not only infant mortality rate, but the maternal mortality rate. And statistics tell us that Black mothers are more likely to die than any other demographic giving birth. So we're looking at how do we have conversations to really understand what are those trends, what's leading up to that. Specifically when statistics tell us that it does not matter whether or not a Black mother is educated, so she has a college degree, her income, or whether or not she's had previous health care is still making her more likely to die while giving birth. So we have to start asking ourselves, what do we need to do differently in the birthing and pre-birth process to ensure that all mothers live throughout the birthing process?
Yeah, I didn't realize that the statistics were that bad. Of course, women, as you know, I don't have to tell you, women are the caregivers. Women put off their own care longer because they're caring about kids and other people. And then you got, access to care issues and everything else. So I just applaud what you're doing to try to equalize all that. Now, you also had told me once that you work toward creating a more inclusive economy in Forsyth. Now, what does that mean?
So when we talk about inclusive economy, what we want to do is take a look to ensure how do we at the Trust really help to elevate what are the barriers to all families being able to move forward economically. So we look at things like equitable and economic mobility. What does it mean when we say all families thrive? Well, we have to say, do all families have access to living wages, the opportunities to ensure that their children are being educated in schools that have high quality, that teachers are being paid. We have a lot of experienced teachers, all of those things coming together to make sure our whole community is improving.
And I will say that on behalf of Chanel and everybody at KB Reynolds Charitable Trust, they do a lot of work in improving quality of life, and that means supporting financially a lot of agencies that do such good work in our area. And one way you can find out more about what KBR does is to go to the website, www.kbr.org. That's kbr.org. Chanel, thanks for doing this.
Thank you. You take care of yourself, Jim.
Appreciate all the work you're doing for the community.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, I'd like to learn more about osteoporosis, and why not have two guests who can do that for me and educate me. On my immediate right, Dr. Karen Kaplan's owner and integrative therapist for healing art of yoga and integrative therapies, among other things. She wears many hats, as does our other guest, Dr. Ann Lake. Both of these are first-time visitors to the show. Dr. Ann Lake is coordinator of Fraction Liaison Services for Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist. Good to see both of you.
Great to see you.
Great to be here.
And can I just use first names?
Absolutely.
All right. Just very briefly, just to get us started, quickly, what is osteoporosis?
So osteoporosis is a condition in the bone that causes the bone to become brittle and weak. And the consequences of those brittle bones are fractures, or what we call fragility fractures.
Now, is there any one particular demographic group of people, men, women, black, white, old, young, who are more susceptible to osteoporosis?
Yes, so postmenopausal women over the age of 50, we begin to lose bone rapidly in the first 5 years after menopause, and therefore checking the bone density is really important. Patients with certain medical conditions, chronic steroid use, patients that are on certain medications for things like diabetes and other medical conditions can certainly be at risk as well.
Now, I'm going to, in just a second, I want to go to Karen to get some specifics on things we can do to help with this. But just in general, how do you prevent osteoporosis?
So you can't stop age. And what happens in our bones is as we age, our bones become, they're constantly remodeling. And so we're building bone and losing bone throughout the course of our life. But when we reach that certain point between 45, 50, 60, we begin to lose bone faster than we're able to replace. So the bone becomes more weak and fragile and thin. The best way to prevent the condition of osteoporosis is by slowing that down. And one of the best ways to do that, not only with treatment, medication, but this is National Osteoporosis Foundation Month, and we're focused on exercise and how to slow bone loss down.
And that brings,
so
me,
there
that
we
brings
go.
me to Karen, who has many talents. And of course, we've talked about the healing art. But speaking of exercise, how can somebody use mind and body together to help prevent osteoporosis?
So yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, dance, they're all considered kind of complementary therapies. And what they do is they help with flexibility, they help with balance, they help with, building that strength that you need that's going to keep the stability not only in the joints, but also in the bone area. And that gives you a better overall quality of life, because when you have these fractures, those fractures can lead to other health complications as well as mental.
Karen, you've
Lost.
seen these commercials where people say, buy this expensive gym equipment, do this, do that, and go into debt for your gym equipment. And yet, you can show me just a couple things just sitting there that can help, that's free. Just show me something.
You're exactly right. I mean, I'm really big on using everything in your house, all right? So I can turn anything into a prop. So even like when you're sitting in the chair in the evenings, if you do a nice little side bend stretch here, all right, that builds that flexibility, or maybe like a gentle twist over here, all right? You could also, like while you're seated in your chair, press down with your hands and lift your body up. So that's going to be building, and that's giving you weight-bearing exercises. They're going to help to build that bone density, all right? I often tell people, you can stand at your kitchen sink, and while you're rinsing or washing your dishes, or maybe you're dicing, because you've got people coming over for dinner, you can put a block underneath one foot and have the other foot behind it, and you can stand in a balance, and you're building not only that ability for balance, but also the core strength that's needed to keep you from falling. And falling is one of those big contributing factors for those fractures that often lead us into the hospital and to seeing doctors, et
Before we
cetera.
run out of time, is there any specific kind of activity that we should avoid if we're susceptible to osteoporosis?
So high impact is not good, all right? You
No
also, no running, really intense aerobic exercises, anything like that. Also, when you're doing stretching, no bouncing. You don't want to force down on the muscles, so you don't want to do any bouncing. You want to hold something for a longer period of time, all right, so that you can actually build muscle strength and awareness.
That's good stuff to know, really. I want to put this up on screen. Again, we're about to run out of time. wakehealth.edu/ortho. Now, that will get you information into that specific website. But to call for even more information or an appointment, 336-716-8735 is the number. To Dr. Lake, to Dr. Kaplan, thanks for all you do for so many people.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, and I'd like to talk about successful entrepreneurs. And there's two people here that are going to help me do that. One is our old friend, not old, your young friend.
Old enough.
Yeah, old enough. Karen Barnes is founder and CEO of Agile City, Winston-Salem. Karen brought a special guest. Kristen Reddington Bennett is founder and director of Illumi Pathfinding Group. Thanks for being here. And I'll get to Kristen in just a second so you can tell me what Illumi is all about. Karen, remind everybody what Agile City is all about.
Absolutely. So Agile City is a nonprofit working in Winston-Salem to retain and recruit startups to our city through a grant competition. And Dr. Bennett is one of our local entrepreneurs, and she is working in the mental health and education space.
So she's, Kristen and Illumi are examples of what fits with your mission.
Absolutely. So our mission is to really help Winston-Salem and the Triad make that transition from our legacy economy into the more entrepreneurial and innovation economy.
Right. Can I call you, I said Kristen, can I call you Kristen?
Sure.
All right. You can call me sir. No, that's just an old, no, Kristen, what is the mission of Illumi?
Our mission is to create a space that's a one-stop shop. So we provide caring and coordinated care for a lot of the roadblocks that happen during childhood, adolescence, and even into adulthood. So our mission really is to be that place for families that they can count on when they have those roadblocks.
What was the inspiration for all this?
So a couple of things, but primarily, family of 4 kids and had to coordinate a lot of different things. We've got a couple who are gifted, a couple who are dyslexic, a couple who have ADHD, and going to all different places to either get those things diagnosed or supported or treated was difficult, and I'm in the field. So
Yeah, but, and I'm curious too, give me maybe one example of something that you can do that you can help with through Illumi that can increase a child's well-being.
Yeah, I'll give you one of our most common examples is we have a kiddo come in struggling in school. They might be bright, so it's unexpected, and parents are wondering about what's going on. So we do an assessment, and it can come out with a number of things. It can come out with, well, there's nothing much, just need a little development, or there's a learning disability called dyslexia, and here's what we can do to help. And we have tutors specialized in helping with that.
So it can be something as serious as a medical thing, and maybe as simple as, well, let's just motivate him or her a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Now, what kind of, now how long have you been doing this? I forgot to ask.
We're in year 3.
Year 3. So that allows me to ask this question. What kind of feedback, or have you received feedback from parents now that you're up and running? What sort of sense do you get from them as how it might have helped?
Yeah, absolutely. We get a lot of feedback. And there's yesterday, one parent called us and they're like, we just can't believe you do all these things. We've been looking for this all this time, and promptly became a 4-service client, right? So she's doing speech therapy and tutoring and counseling. And so all of those things, they just love the idea that they can come to one place.
How do parents find you usually? Does a school counselor, does a pediatrician, do they say, oh, well, you ought to get in touch with Illumi? How do they find you?
I'd say number 1 is word of mouth from previous clients. Number 2 would be probably pediatricians and schools, private schools, primarily recommending us to the parents.
Karen, I know you must be just really proud of what Kristen's been able to do in this field.
Absolutely. So we just actually got our first quarter results in from the whole cohort, and they're all doing amazing things. They're applying for National Science Foundation grants. They're expanding into new markets like Kristen is. One published a joint research paper with NASA. They're opening new clinical trials. The results after just 90 days have been astonishing.
I tell you, this lady here gets a lot of credit for getting stuff done, Kristen. We should give her, if there was a studio audience, we'd all applaud Karen. Anyway, all right, up on the screen, a couple things. AgileCity.ws, you can find out more about that. And thanks to David Mounts, his team at Inmar Intelligence. You can check out their website, inmar.com. And also, for information about Illumi, you can go to www.illumi.co. That's not .com, it's .co, and check that out. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but a quick shout out to the good folks here at Senior Botanical Garden. Please check out the garden, check out the website. You can rent the facility and do all sorts of things. You can even be in here in the gift shop behind us, and that's where we are. And if you're here right now, you'll see these guys next to me. Ogie Overman. He's on the right, but always on the political left. A great broadcaster and journalist. Back behind us, Dr. Don Martin, Vice Chair of the Forsyth County Commissioners, and Mr. Keith Granberry, who is founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, Harvard University officials finally admitted last week what we've known all along, that it used slaves to build the institution and its wealth. Its donors and everything derived their wealth. The university also promoted forced sterilizations. Now Harvard's setting aside $100 million. They say they're going to use it to, quote, study slavery. They said, yeah, we'll even let HBCU students come here for a semester. Great, huh? So anyway, guys, are you okay with what Harvard is doing? Should other colleges follow what they're doing, or should that $100 million be paid in reparations? Ogie.
Well, I doubt Harvard was the only college that was doing that. So yes, I do applaud them for $100 million. I mean, that can be significant, but studying slavery, do we really need to, is that the best use of that money?
I don't know.
Come on.
Dr. Don.
Slavery's been around over 5,000 years. I don't think we need to study it anymore. But I do think that offering the opportunity for both faculty and students from HBCUs to come up is great. But I'd rather pick out the poorest neighborhood in Boston and say, let's look at $100 million investment and wraparound. So let's have a service project for every Harvard student to go there and work and graduate student.
Interesting. Keith.
Well, we know that slavery built the economy. So, I mean, this is not something new. In terms of reparations, I think they need to give money to the people, the families that were sterilized. They definitely need to give them funds for those families.
That doesn't get much attention anymore.
No, that doesn't. And the third thing is that in terms of studying slavery, take that money, put it into some of these HBCUs, into the schools and universities, and allow them to do a joint partnership with them in terms of education.
All right. We've talked about this before, but now the state of Tennessee has made it official. They actually passed a law that requires anyone convicted of vehicular homicide due to intoxication, in which a parent of a minor child is killed, that the driver must pay child support until the child turns 18. Good idea or bad idea? And would you like to see North Carolina pass that law, Ogie?
I'm a little uncomfortable with that, Jim. I know, it's a well-meaning law, but it's almost punitive past the point of reasonableness.
Don.
I probably disagree with Ogie. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it will end. A lot of people are not going to be, just like a lot of fathers don't pay their child support, a lot of people involved in these victims won't be able to pay it either. It becomes
So
a
it could
child
become
support
moot.
issue.
Keith.
It may not be a lot of it, it may do something, and I don't think it's a deterrent, but it's important.
Drive drunk, kill a parent of somebody, you got to pay child support.
Well, first of all, I think it's dumb because, number one, if you kill a parent, most of the time you're going to prison. So how are you going to pay child support in the first place? I think there's going to be...
That was my point.
I think there should be
But sometimes you don't go to prison.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes
most
you
of
get
the
off.
time, and if you don't, there should be some damages, but not child support. I don't think so.
A Wisconsin mother whose son committed suicide is joining a growing number of families in filing wrongful death lawsuits against social media companies for the role their platforms played in driving young people to take their own lives. That's their statement. Litigants say companies like Meta and Snap are addictive and exploit kids' impulse control and decision-making capabilities. Here's the question. Are parents going to win these lawsuits? Or are parents themselves to blame for allowing their child to get hooked on social media to begin with? Mr. Overman.
I hope they win it. I think it's starting to come to light how truly addictive and harmful social media can be to impressionable kids who are kind of lost anyway, searching for their identity. Yeah, I hope they win.
Don.
I think some mom actually got this data that actually shows that those companies knew this is addictive, and it allows them to stay on the line longer and they sell more stuff. And that addictive side on advertising, I think they have a case to win.
Keith.
I don't think they have a case. I think parents have to begin to, number one, teach their kids. And I know it's very difficult in this social media world, but I don't see how the parents win something that is throughout this entire society. That's like saying that back when we were young, that TV was addictive then, but could we sue the local stations for that?
Yeah, and your mom or grandma would come and say, Keith, turn the TV
yeah,
off.
turn the TV off.
This mom in this particular case said, yeah, he was online until 3 in the morning every night. Well,
why was she allowing him to be online at 3 in the morning?
The Zootastic Park in Lake Norman has once again been cited for animal neglect, this time for letting some of the animals lose their tails to frostbite. It's also been fined repeatedly for things like allowing maggots to eat into the flesh of several animals. The owner of the zoo is an Iredell County commissioner. I guess it's hard to deal with that and overturn it, but should the zoo be shut down quickly?
It should be shut down, and he should be impeached, period, end of story.
Don.
Yeah, well, he has to go for election and it should be defeated. But basically, the issue is I don't know whether the Department of Agriculture can close them. Hey, but if they can't, they sure could fine enough to where you can't afford it.
Gee, close it.
They're putting people in jail for animal cruelty. It should be closed. You said repeatedly, so absolutely it should be closed.
All right, a company in Kentucky is now out $450,000 because of a birthday party. The company always has lunchtime parties for employees on their birthday, but one employee said, "Don't ever do that for me, I'll have panic attacks." Well, they gave him a birthday party, surprise party. He did have a panic attack, and then he started acting kind of erratic and being mean to people and whatever. Eventually, it escalated to the point where they fired him, but he went to court, and they had to pay him $450,000. Here's the question. Was the company wrong to do what they did to begin with and throw the party? Or are we as a society becoming too sensitive to everything, or both? Ogie.
No, Pete, you got to understand, panic attacks are real, Jim. I know a lot about panic attacks, up close and personal, believe me. And it is real. They should not have had that party for the guy.
Well, they certainly shouldn't have fired him, and they should have to pay for that.
All right, Keith.
They shouldn't have fired him, and they shouldn't have had the party. He actually told them that what it was, so they should definitely not have fired him.
All right, finally, a Texas-based food delivery service, kind of like a Grubhub type thing, is offering to pay someone $10,000 to travel around the state this summer and do nothing but taste tacos to determine which one is the best. Guys, would you ride around and eat nothing but tacos for $10,000? Okay.
Absolutely, that's a no-brainer. Color me in, I'm there.
Done.
I'll ride with Ogie. I think it's a great idea.
Keith, would I ride around for $10,000, eat tacos, hamburgers, hot dogs, you name it? 10,000?
I'm not sure. The thing is, folks at home, I don't want to get gross. I don't think I'd want to ride with these three after they've eaten nothing but tacos. But anyway,
10,000.
That's all. That's all the time. Yeah. That's all the time we have.
That's a PPP loan right there.
Yeah. PP something. That's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. There's a famous painter in Spain. He's a famous artist, and he's now admitted that he has a romantic crush and relationship with the Mona Lisa. The guy says every night he goes to sleep and actually has a dream of having sexual relations with the woman in the painting. Now, so far, nothing's been consummated between the two because Mona Lisa keeps giving him the brush off. He's a painter. He's a painter. You don't have it.
PPP loans.
Yeah, we're all going to go eat tacos. We'll see you next week.